Thanks for joining us for another episode of Boom and Bust. I'm your host, Tony Clement, a little bit away from the news forum, but still here online. And of course, the news forum is where all voices matter. A new Iron Curtain, a digital one, has fallen over Russia in the wake of the invasion of Ukraine. What are the implications for Western nations? Here to discuss are Aaron Shull. He is the Managing Director and General Counsel to the Center for International Governance Innovation. And we also have Dr. Laura DeNardis. She is a professor at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. Welcome to both of you.
Great to be here.
Thank you, Tony.
So I guess I'll ask Laura first, if that's all right. Just maybe describe how this digital Iron Curtain is working.
Conflicts over digital technologies are really a new space where power has been unfolding in the world, and you certainly see it with the digital Iron Curtain around Russia. And it's unfolding in three different ways. One is internal to Russia, where the government itself is cracking down on social media usage and cracking down on journalists, of course. That there's no surprise there. What has been very interesting, though, is to see two other ways that the digital Iron Curtain has arisen. One is in external private companies pulling their services and products from Russia. And it happened in a very rapid, historic, and massive way, from Apple to TikTok to dating sites like Bumble, and very interestingly, network operators who have pulled out to a certain extent. So that's another way. And then a more obscure way that I think has captured a lot of people's attention because they may not have been aware of this area is in Ukraine's request to the institutions that run the internet to unplug Russia from the internet. So it led many people to say, do these institutions have the ability to unplug Russia by withdrawing IP addresses and interfering with the domain name system? And on that front, the institutions, including, it's a couple of acronyms, ICANN is one of them and RIPE NCC is another, they made the decision not to pull the plug. So those are the three arenas, and it really has been rapid and massive to see all of the digital action.
Right. Aaron, what's your perspective on this?
Well, honestly, Tony, Laura and I did not compare notes before this discussion with you, but she hit the exact same 3 points in the exact same order that I was going to answer the question had I been asked first. Russia's doing what Russia does, right? They blocked Facebook, they blocked Twitter, they blocked Instagram. So Russia is clamping down. But at the same time, as Laura said, Western technology companies are unilaterally pulling out. So you've got everything from Airbnb to Apple changing their business practices, which is also part of this Iron Curtain. And then, as she said, I don't want to bore your listeners to death, but this thing ICANN, the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, I know most people have never ever heard of this thing before. It is super important. It is literally the phone book that makes the internet work. The reason I can talk to you, Tony, is because my video gets broken into little bits and bytes, and it goes through the internet and it routes to you because of that phone book. And what they were asking to do, what Ukraine asked ICANN to do, was to unplug Russia from the phone book. They said no because they didn't want to set a political precedent. But all that to say, that's the tripartite mechanism that creates this digital Iron Curtain.
Gotcha. Aaron, is it at all possible to get non-Putin inspired information to Russians, given this digital divide that's occurring?
Yes, I mean there's two mechanisms. One is through something called a virtual private network, or a VPN, which tries to route around some of these blockages. Now, I will also say this: Russia's cracking down on that as well too, right? So this is not a panacea. And the second is there are some instances where YouTube is actually the best example. YouTube is still largely up in Russia. I mean, Google just got fined for some anti-Putin content, but all that to say, YouTube is still up. So there are ways.
So I think it's important because there's, as you both mentioned, there are kind of a couple of things happening all at once. Do you expect that that's going to be the status quo? We've got about 30 seconds left, Laura, before the break. Is this the new status quo, what we're seeing now?
It's not only the new status quo, it's been happening for quite a long time. And you've seen these intermediary companies blocking information in a variety of ways, especially around the domain name system, but also cloud computing. You might recall when Amazon Web Services cut off Parler after the president's election, another
Right.
example.